Hello and welcome to Historia Romana. Episode 2, The Voyage of Aeneas. The ancient city-state of Troy was said to be one of the most powerful kingdoms in the Bronze Age world, especially for its small size. Founded by Ilus around 1300 BC, the Trojans quickly gained control over the Aegean trade routes, financing a splendid city named Ilium, though we know it today as Troy, after his father Tros, uniter of the Trojan people. This led to resentment between the Trojans and the neighboring Greeks, who greatly outnumbered the Trojans but lacked cohesive leadership. This changed when the Trojan prince Paris kidnapped Helen, queen of Sparta, and brought her back to Troy around 1195 BC, based on the dates provided by Eratosthenes. Outraged, the brothers Menelaus, king of Sparta, and Agamemnon, king of Mycenae, marshaled a fleet of over 1,000 Greek ships to storm Troy and get her back. The following war was not the smashing success that either side had envisioned, however, and the siege of Troy dragged on for a decade. Legends surrounding Rome's connection to Troy had existed long before the oldest Roman historians had been able to write them down in the late 3rd century BC. However, the version that almost everyone knows today is the epic poem from the late 1st century BC, the Aeneid, written by the poet Virgil and starring the titular Aeneas. Aeneas was the great-grandson of Ilus, with his father being Anchises, a handsome man who was said to have gained the affection of Venus, the goddess of love. The mythographer Hyginus credits him with killing 28 enemies over the course of the 10-year war, and he frequently crossed paths with famous Greek heroes, most notably Diomedes, who Aeneas had to be saved from by both Venus and Apollo, allegedly because it was his destiny to become king of the Trojans, a prophecy which Aeneas did not, as of yet, understand. The war finally concluded in 1184 BC with the sack of Troy. The Homeric sources tell us that the clever Ulysses used his giant wooden horse to infiltrate the city at night and open the gates for the rest of the Greek army. King Priam and the royal family were slain. The city's inhabitants were killed or enslaved, and the city was burned to the ground. A group of refugees, under the guidance of Prince Aeneas, escaped from the flames of Troy aboard a makeshift fleet of ships and set out to find a new home. Their journey took them from Thrace to Sicily to North Africa, where Aeneas is said to have held a year-long romantic relationship with Dido, the Phoenician queen of Carthage, until he was compelled to move on. Dido cursed her and Aeneas's descendants to eternal conflict and committed suicide out of despair. After 7 years of traveling, they finally arrived at Laurentum in west-central Italy, where King Latinus was holding court. There are two different interpretations of what happened next. Livy claims that by now, the Trojans had run out of supplies and had nothing left but their weapons, so they immediately decided to begin pillaging the nearby countryside for supplies. Latinus led his army out to meet the invaders, but was defeated in battle and forced into a matrimonial alliance with the Trojans. However, other writers like Virgil claim that no battle took place, and the Trojans instead received a warm welcome. This was because Latinus had recently received several prophecies involving the arrival of a foreign people, and that if he married his daughter Lavinia to their leader, the Aborigines would be propelled to legendary status amongst the people of Italy. Upon the arrival of Trojan ambassadors sent by Aeneas, who told him of their sorrowful journey and divine destiny to settle in Italy, Latinus immediately realized that these were the people the prophecies had spoke of, and so agreed to let them stay in his land, and soon made preparations to marry Lavinia to Aeneas instead of Turnus. The first scenario was more likely, but in either case, a Trojan settlement was soon founded by Aeneas just south of Laurentum, which he named Lavinium after his new consort, who would soon become pregnant. Aeneas already had a son with his deceased wife Creusa, who was named Ascanius, making this his second child. These events did not bode well for Turnus, to whom Lavinia had been promised before the Trojans' arrival. Enraged to see preference given to a stranger, the Rutulian prince declared war on both the Trojans and the Aborigines. Seeking help, Aeneas led a delegation to Pallantium, where he secured support from Evander. This is the last we hear of the fabled Greek settlement on the Palatine before later being abandoned. In the battle that followed, the Rutulians were defeated, but Latinus, who had commanded the Aborigines in person, died in the fighting. Turnus and his followers, conscious of their precarious situation, implored the assistance of Etruria, the powerful nation north of the Albula. Mezentius, king of the Etruscans, kept his court in Caere, an opulent city in those days, located not far from Laurentum. He had always looked with a jealous eye on the Aborigines and saw in the potential combining of the Trojans and Aborigines a major threat to his power, and so Mezentius readily joined in alliance with the Rutulians against their common enemy. Aeneas, realizing the huge danger faced by both the Trojans and the Aborigines, quickly took command of Latinus's subjects, beginning the process of combining the two peoples into one nation under a common set of laws. This new people was redubbed by Aeneas as the Latini, after their dead king. This symbolic move easily won over the hearts of the Aborigines, as from this point on they would be as faithful to Aeneas as the Trojans were, just in time for the arrival of the Etruscan-Rutulian coalition. It would have been more sound for Aeneas to stay behind the walls of Lavinium, where his outnumbered forces could have more easily repulsed the Etruscans. Instead, he courageously ventured out to meet this formidable enemy, obtaining a second victory for the Latins and killing both Turnus and Mezentius. Alas, it would also be Aeneas's last action, as he either perished during the fighting or sank into the Numicus River soon after, never to be seen again. Livy and Dionysius state that divine honors were paid to him for centuries afterwards under the name Jupiter Indiges, and that his tomb could still be seen standing on the banks of the Numicus in the 1st century BC. With their courageous leader gone, it would now fall to Aeneas's widow and young sons to continue the new nation. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. Until next time.